Hello, my name is Walt Spang, S-P-A-N-G, and with this video I'm going to teach you how to make my 300% breaking strength tough guy shackle. It starts off with a Brian toss button knot, and then I do a few things to it to bring the strength up to the 300% level. This particular shackle, which is a 1/4 inch, broke at 30,000 pounds. That's 30,000 pounds. It's quite a feat for a little guy like that. I also have with me here my standard shackle. I call him little brother, next to the 300%, next to the tough guy. He's very similar in build, but on the tough guy shackle I have bury that goes all the way around and a very long overlap. On the standard shackle I bury the loop end back far enough so that you can get some good taper in there and whatnot, and then you have the bury from the tails of the button knot. But there's a section like right in here where it's just the cover Dyneema 1/4 inch. So the strength of this particular shackle is 260% versus 300%. Okay, we're going to get going. What I've done is I pre-cut some 1/4 inch New England ropes Dyneema to the length that I need for this demonstration. This length, I cut a total of 80 inches and doubled over, that would produce 40. The reason it's so long is you want a long tails coming from the button knot, because you're going to bury quite a bit of it, and you need enough coming out the other end so that you can taper and do some things that I'll show you. I then have the 3/16 material, again New England Dyneema. This is all the West Marine version, which is a 75. This is 3/16, and I cut it at 30 inches, a little bit longer than I need. Now, getting back to the 1/4 inch, the main part of the shackle, I have some marks that I made initially. Oh, and before I go any further, these are the tools that I will be using to make this shackle. It's a typical pick. I've got a metalworking scratch awl. The reason I have the scratch awl is when you tie the button knot, you want to make the button knot as tight as you can make it by hand. It will be tightened later through the process that I'll show you, but initially you want to get the button knot as you make it as tight as you can possibly do it using your hands. Okay, getting back to the Dyneema here, I've made a series of 3 groups of marks. The first one, the 2 side by side, is the where the button knot will start. The second one I marked 2 inches down from the button knot, and then the third I marked 9 inches back from the button knot. Now the overall for this length is 15 inches. That's what I'm figuring on the body length will be, is 15 inches minus the shrinkage that takes place as you bury the line. This produces a shackle. This one right here was made using that 15 inches. You can make it shorter and you can make it longer, whatever you want. Now the reason I buried 9 inches is to maximize the strength of the shackle. You're going to have the 3/16 come in here, go all the way around, and come out here. The 1/4 inch, after you've tied the knot, is going to go in from this point and come out at these points. So you have here what I call like in earthquake technology, fault line, where the 2 buries overlap one another. That fault line works under extreme stress, the cover, which you can equate to California because the stresses are linear to the fault line, build and build and build until something has got to give. And basically what's going to give is the two lines side by side compressed by the cover is going to slip. When that slippage takes place, all the load that's been shared by the three lines are going to transfer to the cover, and the cover will break. So in this situation, this is the area when you've reached the limit of your shackle that you will see the breakage. Okay, we're going to get started now, and I'm going to take the 3/16, put it in these are Selma fids. That's what I use exclusively in doing my shackles, because I like the way it works, and I haven't found anybody or figured out a way to have a design I have in my mind made that's more conducive to shackle making. Anyway, you insert the berry into the second mark that I described, which is 2 inches from where the button knot will be, and get it going, and then just work it through. Make sure you don't grab anything along the way there. And then you come out at the other point, again the second mark, 2 inches from where the knot starts. Pull out enough so you want about an even amount on each side, and then milk your cover. You got a little short on one end, just even it up. Now that extra is important because you'll be tugging on it and whatnot during the other parts of the process. So get it nice and snug. I'm going to move some of these tools out of the way so I have a cleaner table. Okay, we now have, you line the marks back up, and there you go. That's the first part. The next thing we're going to do is locate the loop size and pierce it. So the easiest way is just take a previous button knot shackle of the same size, put it in there, make sure you're still lined up, and take a felt tip and mark it about where you want the size of the loop. You don't really want it too big or too small, but just right. There you go. Okay, we've done that. Now you just open it a little bit, and you take your smallest fid and you insert it between the strands, and you strive to punch through the center of the buried 3/16. And again, you come out the other side between strands, and you want to have 6 on each side. So we've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's one too many. So I'm going to, or is that one too many? I got to recount here. There's 2, there's 4, there's 5, and then there's 2 more that are crossing over the other way. So I'm going to back off here. There we go. Now what do I got? 2, 4, 5, and 6. So we're set. Okay, you've done that with the smallest fid to make it easier to do. Then you start working your way up in fid size, making the hole bigger. And this is the 1/4 inch fid, but you don't stop with the 1/4 inch fid. The reason being, you now have a line that's bigger than 1/4 inch. So you go up to the next size fid, get it going in there, and now you have to work it a little bit to get the hole large enough. Get it halfway through like so, and then just leave it there. That's an anchor point for the berry. Milk it out good and tight. Then you take your other end, see, this is where the loop would form. Take it out, take that end, push it through the fid. I put this tail underneath so it's inside the fid, and just pull it through. There you go. Y'all can see that, and make sure you got your marks lined up. Okay, we're ready to make the button knot now. So I don't expect anybody trying to make this knot or this shackle until you've mastered the Brian Toss button knot shackle, so that you're good at making that. So more than likely I'm going to cut out this portion and come back when the button knot is complete. Okay, I've completed the button knot. I've made it as tight as I can by hand, and you can see the marks are still lined up. And if you look hard, you can see the blue mark where the button knot started. Okay, now we enter the next phase. Again, make sure everything is milked snug and tight, especially in the loop. With this kind of knot and the amount of the forces that are generated to try and break it, it's imperative that the tensions in the berry and the cover are as equal as possible. So you work on getting that berry real nice. There. Now, so I don't forget myself, there we go. So I don't forget myself, what I'm going to do, and I forgot to get it, there it is. I'm going to pierce this side, the part that goes through in the crossover. I'm going to pull down on the loop, and I'm going to pierce it with a darning needle, knitting needle, whatever you want to call it. Okay, the reason I'm doing this is as you're working and burying and working in this area, this is going to bunch up and come back into here, and it's a real pain in the butt to have to really work at milking it out so you maintain those even temperatures or tensions. This helps a little bit, but you're still going to wind up having to do it. Okay, we now have the two tails. You notice they're nice and long, and we're going to mark them starting about an inch past the mark that we're going to insert it to bury. Right, as you can see the two marks, and that's where the 3/16 came out. So we're going to make a mark, well, roughly an inch beyond that. Same with the other one. And then we're going to mark about an inch back. Now you don't have to mark this here, especially if you have a long enough tail. I'm doing it just so you understand that if you want to save as much material as possible as you make these shackles by the thousands, you'll have an idea why. Okay, we've done that. Now what we're going to do, and where did I put my pick? There it is. We're going to pull out two threads or two strands from this, starting at the first mark I made on it. So we'll pick one here, and we will pull it out. Like so, and then go down maybe up to an inch or so, pull out another one, and we got two. That's to reduce the size of the line a little bit without sacrificing a lot of strength, because it'll probably at least match the strength of the 3/16 in it, and it's still a little bigger. Okay, now in order to bury this, starting at the base of the knot and coming up to here, you can't use a 1/4 inch fid, so you go down a size. What I use for my 3/16 shackles, and you have to taper this portion so that you can fit it inside a 3/16 fit. Okay, now I put these marks here, but it's not really necessary, as I said. So I'm going to start my taper down further, because the more flat this is inside, the stronger your fault line is going to hold together. So I'm going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to pull out 3 more strands. So there's a total of 5 strands that will come out of the line. That's what you need to get it small enough to fit in the 3/16 shackle. 1, and you want to do it in a nice tapering format to make it easier to pull through. 2, and then we'll take one out of here. There, 3. Cut them off flush. There you go. So now you have the line ready for bury. And then you take your 3/16 fid and you shove it in there. Now, what's important here is you don't have much of any braid to hook into that little hook in the back, so more than likely it's going to slip on you. So what I do is I take my scratch awl here and I push it in as much as I can. I just stuff it in the back of the fit to make it difficult to pull out. That's so when you're working it through the cover, it'll come out the other end. If not, you got to start all over again. So get it in there nice and firm. These shackles are not your everyday use type of shackle. These 300% shackles are designed for the toughest of applications. They are super strong and they are super durable. Okay, I've done that, and it should be fairly solid in there. I will then go to the knot, and you want to start the bury as close as you can possibly get it to the base of the knot. The reason being that when you final pull the knot, material is going to come out of the knot as the knot gets a little smaller and tighter, and this section is going to go down, move down slightly. So it can be a pain to get it started when you're trying to get it started as close as you can, but then once you do, you're in good shape. What I do then is that this part of the shackle of the fid can catch this inside it, and it becomes a pain in the butt to try and get it down. So I'll turn it to make sure the back side is facing the buried 3/16, and then you just get it started in there, and then you can pull on the 3/16, which brings all that material together and makes it easier to get down through there. You want to pull one every once in a while too, to make sure your fid hasn't grabbed onto the buried 3/16. You get down to the other mark, come out, work it a little bit so you can get that fid out, grab a hold of it and just pull it through nice and easy. There we go. Now another important thing is, as you pull the tail to bury it, you want that tail to be as tight as possible in there, because when you do the final pulling on the knot to tighten it, see that little gap right there? That gap can grow to maybe there, and if that... Okay, welcome back folks. I don't know what happened, but the video stopped videotaping, so anyway, we'll start again. Hopefully I can patch it all together, or otherwise I'll have to have a part 1 and part 2. Well, anyway, what I've done now is, as you can see, it's been pulled through. Got the 3/16 on this side and the 1/4 inch on this side. And what you got to do is milk this back, get that cover as tight as you can. You pull on it, get the tails to get back in there as much as possible, and keep doing that. And then we're ready to begin the other side. So it's basically the same process. I may or may not cut it out of the video just because it's redundant. Anyway, we pull our 5 strands out, 2 and 3. Again, go down a little bit from the first. Any abrupt diameter changes inside the cover, you want as gentle as possible, because if it's too harsh, it weakens that area. Okay, there's 2. And then again, remember, you can come down to the second mark you made, or further, depending on how much tail you've left. I put quite a long tail on this for the video, so I'm not going to bother starting at the mark. I'm just going to go further down. but you want enough so that you have a fairly easy taper so it works down through the burying process easier. Let's see, get one out of here. There we go. Okay, we cut them off again flush. These are titanium shears and they work the best for this kind of stuff. As for cutting the line itself, you can't beat the box cutter with what do you call it, coated blades. Forgot, because this dulls the knife very quickly. There we go. Okay, now we're getting ready to start. Remember, again, get that burial start as close as you can. Oh, I forgot. You gotta put the fin on. Oh well. Okay. Get that down in the 3/16 fin. Get it shoved in there good. And again, you want it shoved in there good is because there's not much braid left after you pulled out 5 strands, so you want to rely on it to hold it. Okay, now we go to our other side. Get it as close as you can to the tail and as close into the knot that you can. Again, turning the fid so the back of the fid is facing your 3/16. Get it started a little bit. Pull on that 3/16 that's come out and work her down. Keep pulling again to make sure you don't accidentally grab the 3/16 with the fid. Pull some more. And now you can see why it was imperative that I put that in there. See how this all bunches up? That gets back in here. It's a pain in the butt to work it out. You're still going to have to work out some, but it won't be as bad. There we go. Out she comes. Voila. Again, don't forget to pull that sucker tight. It's a little bit bigger right there than I would normally like to see, but it's still fine. Remember, it's going to grow when you actually start pulling that knot. Now, see how that comes back in as you pull tight to keep working it. Get that cover tight. Do the best you can through here, and then we go to the next process. Okay. Pull this out. So we'll start to get that milk down good and tight around there. That milking doesn't like to go through the constriction, so that's why you got to keep working at it. Didn't do too bad there, so I don't have too much to worry about. Okay, so there we are at this stage of the game. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it out and pull this tighter. We're going to put it in a device I made, and I attach it to one of my boat winches. I think a tractor jack would be good to get the kind of tensions you're going to need, but for me right now, I'm using one of my winches to do that. So we're going to take the camera now and go out into the cockpit where I'm set up to do the pulling. Okay, I've got a hook where I'm going to put the tail or the loop, and this is a fixture I made that the knot goes through, and then this tightens up against it, and that way I can pull it straight with a flat surface for the base of the knot. Now, if you want to reach the kind of tensile strength that this video is advertising, this is a process you want to do. Soak it. Get it good and wet. Get that water down inside it. Let it get down into the knot in between all them little fibers and stuff. When she's good and soaked, you take it out. I put it into my fixture. Make sure these tails can move. Then I snug it down. And the tail goes in the hook. And we're ready to tighten it up. As we tighten it up, you're going to notice that this body gets a little thinner as the material is getting pulled in. Now, what you want to do, and what's critically important, is to take your time. It's important that you do not heat any of this material up during the process, and again, that's part of the wetting. The wetting helps lubricate it, and it also helps to cool it, just to dissipate the heat. There we go. Dissipate the heat from the material. Dyneema, okay, we pulled a little bit, now I'm letting it rest. The Dyneema itself melts at about 250 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe. And it starts losing properties a lot earlier than that. So that part, we're giving it enough time. Let's do a little more. Now we're not doing and my battery's running out. So we're going to have to stop and we'll start. Okay, we've completed the stretching process of trying to tighten everything up best we could. And if you don't do that first before you trim these, you're going to wind up with the material ends coming back in a lot further than you want it to go. So we're now ready to cut the material and go from there. So first thing, we're going to, you notice these marks on here. That actually, I believe, was a transfer from the ink when it was wet, or when we soaked it. But anyway, we're going to pull out, we're going to mark, first we mark where the tails leave the cover. Then we're going to pull out a little bit. You want to be careful not to overdo it. Oh, another thing I want to do is on this one particular, I want to put another, at least a pick through there to keep this tight. So I pulled out, whoops, that's what I prefer not doing, but there's enough there. You can see how that, a good example right there of the fault line theory. Okay, we'll cut the tails at the mark. And then we're going to taper them. Again, you want a nice gentle transition in diameters. There's also a reason why I went in about an inch or so before starting to pull the first two strands from the 1/4 inch. One taper. I hope we can get this video put back together. This is actually the 3rd video, because the first one the camera just stopped, and the second one we ran out of battery, and now this is number 3. So hopefully I can put all this together and not have a part 1, 2, 3. There we go. Pull back on that. Okay, now we're going to do the same to the other side. In there quick. Let's pull him back in. can notice how much have already come out of the knot, how much those gaps have grown. And that's to be expected and not to worry about. What you don't want is for it to billow out. So if you got a little bit left sticking out, don't worry about it, because the next process of the knot tightening and overall pulling will pull them further in. Okay, we'll go back outside and finish the process. What I just did not do, I forgot in a rush to get it set up, was to soak it again. Put it back in the water before you pull this next time. Again, to get that water in there for lube and for cooling. The line is still pretty wet, so I should be alright. Again, pull a little at a time. Give it time for that heat to dissipate. If you don't, when the shackle breaks, you will notice a difference in the material from a good break versus a melting type of break. I will describe that. You can see how the ends have all disappeared. You're getting nice tapers down here. It's looking pretty good. Okay, that's about as much as I can put on it with my winch. You can see how that knot has shrunk down. With this type of puller, you got a flat surface, and that's important. You get a good surface down there to hold that loop in place when you're under extreme conditions. There you go. See how that knot looks? Believe me, that's a tight knot. Okay, we have our shackle again. Just open it up. Initially she's a little stiff, which is to be expected with all that pulling and everything else. But there you go. Notice how everything still lines up. You want to strive for that. There you go. There's the other one. Brother and sister, I guess you could say. Alright, now this is what your shackle should look like when you hit 29,700 pounds. That's what this one broke at. 306% of the tensile strength of the line. Okay, and it was a fracture failure. I mean fault failure, fault line failure. Because here's the 3/16 bury, and here is the 1/4 inch bury. When you pull this out and you look at it closely, you could see how this line was molded to the shape of the braid under extreme crushing type pressures from the cover. And that's what you want, because the more of that you have, the less chance it's going to slip. Another thing is, look at the way these broken strands are, not the poor ones, because they were tapered as such, but the cover, which actually broke, they're all fuzzy. If there was a problem, especially in the area of the knot, you can see the deform somewhat of the knot, and from being around the shafts that pull it. If you have failure up in this area and back here with this, you can see how that's almost pretty much molded to the shape of this. Okay, what will happen if you've not done a good job of tightening the knot? The material coming out of the knot rubs under extreme pressure on the loop, and that temperature buildup will be enough to literally melt it to the point where it'll break. And when you see the break, you're not going to have this nice fuzz. It's going to be more like chewing gum when you pull it out, because the material will have gotten into a state to where it'll just pull apart, almost like taffy, which is not quite the melting point, but you get my drift. Okay, so there you go. A 300% shackle by Walt Spang, S-P-A-N-G. Remember that name, please. And I'll get it up on YouTube as quick as I can. Please comment. Let me know what you think of it, what you think of the shackle, what you think of the video. This is my first time at trying to do a video, so I don't know what to expect out of it yet. Thank you all for watching, and may God bless. Bye.